before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best Black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women,
this man's
Asian,
Cadence.
people with diplomas, with no
Like he can
diplomas,
say something completely innocent and sometimes manages to make it sound
everybody
racist.
had the best numbers.
We had the best.
And you know what? The other side wanted to get together.
Asian.
They wanted to
Asian,
unify.
Hispanic.
Success is going to bring us together.
The plague,
We
that
are
was
on
also
the road
nice.
to
Stranger
success.
texted
You
me
will
all
have a
caps. I did
depression,
not
the
like
likes
how
of
he
which
said
you've
Black.
never seen. Your 401ks
I know, it's
will
really
go to
scary.
hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Like Phantom of the Opera.
Look, she got the mask on. Let's applaud the progress. She got herself. She got COVID once. She's not getting it again.
Oh my God. Oh, that's not. I like that. It's coordinated. That's cool. I actually
Melania deserves a lot of criticism for a lot of substantive reasons, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that she doesn't slay looks.
Yeah, but she's just
she's a model. She
I know, but
it
looks very scary. I just think it's, oh my God, what did Trump just do? Oh no, it's Biden. Oh yeah, I used to talk about the Biden lunge.
What did he just do?
The jazzy lunge, when he does a lunge. He probably said something to her and he lunged over.
I would like to say, I hope I'm as nimble as either man when I'm in my late 70s.
I know.
This whole election season has been an advertisement for how, if you're affluent,
right, your health is
health is excellent.
Yeah, but what about Bernie? Oh, right, he did have the heart attack. But he's in great. He's in great shape.
Looks fantastic. It was a relatively mild number. Cheney's out here walking around with a pig heart. I mean,
I know. I hope they didn't have to kill anyone for that. That's terrible. They should not kill anyone for that.
For the pig heart? I mean,
for any, yeah, I know, but I know I wanted it to die. I hope it died naturally, but I have a feeling it didn't.
I don't think they.
That's awful. I cannot believe they killed pigs. Are so innocent, and they killed one for Cheney.
Katie, my feelings were that that was a very well run debate, a very well executed debate, and the debate host was excellent. Although she could have raised a different quality of question and earlier in the debate and had less discourse around Burisma, Russia, etc.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, though, these things are pretty short. You know, an hour and a half is not that long. I don't know. What do you think? Are any hearts and minds going to change over this?
I don't know. I mean, I think that Ted, after watching this, I need to take a shower. That's probably the consensus. I kind of feel like it's like there's a standard and then there's a Trump standard. And I kind of feel like I wonder if this was on purpose. He's been like acting like such a maniac that this was almost like, oh my God, amazing. Wow. Like this made him, that left a lot of room for him to look presidential.
So people who follow me
no,
I get it. Yeah. I get it. So for people who follow me on Twitter, I have been doing a West Wing marathon. I'm going on the West Wing thing tomorrow to record. And
I did. That's a great show.
I just watched an episode where it's like the election episode, and he's running against this like proto George Bush, George W. Republican type who's supposed to be very dumb. And it's like it was happening when George Bush was in office, and so it was like this fantasy of how like the libs could actually own right wingers for being so stupid, and like how much they hate and pathologize intellectualism in the academy and East Coast schools and all of that stuff. But in this lead up to the election episode, they start to get really worried that the bar is so low for this guy because he's been doing so poorly, because he's kind of fallen for every trap, because he is so simple-minded that he can just stand up straight during the debate, and it's going to be bad for Bartlett. And that does kind of feel like the situation that we are in right now. And I don't know, like I think the pundit class largely ignores the extent to which we're talking about a very like narrow subset of the population, people who haven't made up their minds, people who, and him coming off as like not terrible, like not monstrous, like basically advocating for maintenance of the status quo, under which obviously a lot of people are really struggling, but a lot of his core voters who are average like $75,000 a year are like less in the cohort that are really taking the brunt of this.
Right.
And maybe all they need is reassurance that he's not a complete monster. Biden comes off as probably as corrupt all of the signals that he's sending out, all these words that are going over our heads because we aren't on the Facebook right-wing feed, are landing punches that people who are in the room don't even understand. Yeah. And this could be the thing that just gives people an excuse to go ahead and continue to vote for him.
Right. But yeah, I mean, the big fear that I have is that, that the early votes are looking good, but the fear I have is that the people who turn out are going to be so overwhelmingly Republican, like on, November 3rd, because the COVID skeptics.
I think that's a possibility. But what is it like? There are all these states where the number of people who have voted absentee is already 50% of the entire vote total from 2016. Yeah. I do think a lot of Democrats are also planning to vote in person. Yeah. And that was like a week ago. Who knows? Like, I just sent my absentee ballot in yesterday. So a lot of people are just now kind of.
Where you registered? New York?
In New York. Yeah.
What'd you do? You don't have to tell us.
The internet.
Did you write someone in? Okay.
I did not write someone in. I don't think people talk about throwing away one's vote. I don't think that's not a strategic option to write someone in, as much as that might be emotionally satisfying. And I'm not a strategic voter. So, but the point is that I don't feel like, I feel like that those numbers might even go even higher. Plus you've seen these long lines for early voting. Right. Yeah, I think it looks good for Biden, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary. I don't know. I still think anything could happen, but he did seem this is what happened when I saw the in 2016, I was in Cleveland for the RNC, and I remember seeing Trump speak, and everyone on MSNBC was like, there's going to be outrageously racist, nativist discourse. And there wasn't anything for him that was outrageous. So I feel like that also had kind of the bar was so high that, so high for bad stuff, so low, that it also made it almost like you were like, oh, okay. Like if you're one of his voters who's, now it's different, but at least then, if you were a voter of his who didn't particularly love the xenophobia stuff, he would have been maybe okay, like not scared you off. A potential voter, I should say.
Yeah, I think that's right. Like, it drives me crazy because for all of the vote blue, no matter who is him, Democrats who say, "Oh, yes, I agree. I don't love Biden. Yes, Biden has been accused of sexual assault. Biden has all of these, Biden Social Security, Biden crime bill. Yeah, I get it. I understand. You're right. But we just got to get Trump out of office." I don't know why they don't understand that the exact same narrative is going on the right. And there's plenty of Republicans who think, yes, Trump is a xenophobe. Oh, yes, Trump is a many times over accused rapist. Trump is horrible. Sincerely. But at the end of the day, we need to get our Supreme Court justices in. And
like Mitt Romney.
Like Mitt Romney. So I don't like, by the very same logic that you're using to appeal to Democrats to vote for Biden, Republicans are doing the same thing and pretending like they have to be uniquely racist. I'm not saying that there isn't a willingness to ignore racism, but the idea
primarily driven by
and they have the same long-term goals that Democrats do in the inverse. Right. And so all they need is an excuse that this man is not actually at a step with the norms, such that we're not going to be able to return to norms in 4 years. And perhaps he provided that assurance this evening.
Yeah. By the way, Zach Boyle says, if Trump thought it was a GOP primary, he'd crush Biden. If Biden thought he was a Democrat, he'd crush Trump. Instead, two racist idiots acting tough, arguing against things they've both done themselves. Pretty good summary, yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people recognize this. We have a one-party system at this point, especially people like under 30. So we'll see how much longer they can do this tap dance. And we'll see how much all the people who say, yes, we'll vote for Biden and we'll resist the day after, really do put their money where their mouth is. And I'm going on with Cornel West. I'm going to have to hop off in a second right after this. And, he's someone who has said as much and said that he's voting for Biden and endorses Biden, and that, that on November 4th, the real battle starts. And I want to ask, I want to be having substantive conversations the way we had that substantive conversation, or attempted to have a substantive conversation with Noam Chomsky about what that looks like. Because I believe in activism and organizing, but I don't believe in people who use it as a cudgel to minimize the extent to which part of one's power, part of the power that you can organize for, can be implemented through electoral means, and who use the specter of activism as a way to basically pacify people, and argue that, oh, well, progress takes time, don't ask for that much, to make people feel like they don't have to act with exigency in the context of their own life.
Right. I mean, I do think it's different. I'm going to ask you to send Cornel West to share with him, or I can get I'll find his email. But that sounded like such a humble brag or something. But no. I want you to show him this clip of my uncle. I'll send it to you. I played it for people the other night, but he's saying how like neo-fascists, you organize more under, and Joshua Kahn Russell said this last night too, which is basically the point that like you can organize more under, you can like fight back and organize more under neoliberals than you can under neo-fascists.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I think that's like, there are lots of, I think that is a strength. That is a strength on one side of the argument.
Yeah.
And I do think it's different when someone like Cornel West says that, because he is someone who like embraces, the struggle.
Yeah.
But it is true. It's like, what's the plan? I think we need to have a plan. I really think we have to have a plan, like a pre-plan, because if not, he's going to get into office and what happens? And the one thing that gives me some, not solace, some like a glimmer of hope is that the Bernie expectation gap, like having Bernie in the race and having him be as close to winning as it was, like when Obama came in and he sucked. Everyone's afraid that Biden's going to be the good guy coming in after bad guy, right? Like, so you got Obama in after Bush, and no one's going to pay attention to what he's doing. Now we're going to have Biden after Trump. No one's going to be paying attention to how bad he is. But I do, the one thing we have is that like the potential and the successes that Sanders showed will create, I think, hopefully, a demand. Like, it's no longer possible to say that stuff is impossible.
Right. And I think that Bernie just radicalized a lot of people, including myself. I was paying attention after 2016 in a way that I frankly can admit that I wasn't in 2012, or especially before like Occupy. So I think that's right, and the point about the ease of organizing under a Democratic president is legitimate. But I also think that you can't say that without also acknowledging the extent to which people do go to brunch and stop caring under a Democratic president, and you have to weigh those things against each other. And I'm not an organizer. I'm not going to pretend to say that one militates in one direction or another. And I think I tweeted this the other day. Nathan Robinson and Benjamin Studebaker had a debate about whether or not one should vote for Biden, and Studebaker took a little bit more of the accelerationist approach. And to me, the fundamental issue is that we don't know whether accelerationism works, right? It's not, we don't know for sure whether a second term of Trump will yield the results that we would hope in terms of radicalizing the public. And given the unknown and given the enormous risk of Trump, it makes sense to say, okay, well, let me just not even gamble with people's lives that way. Let me go ahead and vote for Biden, or at least not vote for Trump. Like, I completely understand that argument. But if you are taking that approach, I think it's incumbent on you to do the work to lay out the ground plan for how you're going to get away the very real risk of voter apathy. And the people who want to talk about, voting for Biden and vote no matter who and non-accelerationism and all of those things and how we need to do activism, but who never say a single word about what that activism looks like, or won't entertain using the threat of building small electoral coalitions in key states to force whoever the Democratic nominee is 4 years, 8 years from now to do better than what they've done currently. I have there's a credibility gulf. And that's what I wanted to hear from Chomsky, not, oh, no, you're right, don't vote for Biden. No, that wasn't our argument at all. What I wanted to hear was, okay, this is how we're going to hold people accountable, because the ways in which we've been trying it haven't worked, including during the biggest public uprising, the biggest protest movement in American history, which had zero effect, frankly, if we're going to be really honest, had little to no effect on Joe Biden during the course of the last 6 months.
Yeah, right. No, and I think you're totally right. And I think that, like, I wanted a much more substantive. I was a disappointing debate. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, I was sad because I feel like you guys are both intellectual, You're both smart people. I know it's not like.
Well, no, I'm a dumb moron who doesn't
That's
understand.
the other thing. It's like, why don't you just hate Brie? Why don't you just say Brie's an asshole and say she's like a terrible person? Like that's, that's that. I mean, that has no merit to it. But you can. It's not on its face. You know what I mean? But like, you don't know what Brie's like. But like, she's smart. Like, just call her like something else.
Well, no, a lot of people don't think that I'm smart. A lot of people, I think, are deeply invested in Noam Chomsky as a public figure for ways in which I respect and appreciate. And I certainly have no interest in maligning him or the work that he's done and his contributions to society. But I was hoping, for all of the rhetoric about how I personally disrespected Professor Chomsky, I would never dream of doing that. And, Virgil makes his jokes. He's a comedian. I think that anyone who knows him understands the bit he was doing for engagement reasons online. But like, I sincerely wanted to know the answers to questions. And I wasn't trying to weaponize my identity. I was trying to bring the experiences of people that I know and love to the fore and say, this is an example of a real voter who I know, who is more concerned with the pressing issues in their own lives and the extent to which the Democratic Party has ignored those issues despite their faithful voting and our Black community's faithful voting for Democrats for literally generations. What can I tell someone like that that is going to make them believe that something's going to be different in the future? And what can we do to make sure that something's different going forward? And the answer that I got was, it only takes 10 minutes to vote. You got to just vote for Biden. If you don't, it means you don't care about the environment. And that was pretty disappointing. And I would love for Professor Thompson to come back and engage with us further if he feels like that's misrepresenting his argument. And I hope that people do listen to the interview in full if they can. I understand that it's paywalled and it won't be forever, but we appreciate everybody who has tuned in so far and made the podcast a success. I'm so sorry I got to hop off because I got it. Okay. They told me to come back at 10:55.
Okay, great. Well, tell Cornel West I say hi. And I'm going to text you this video because I think he would have gotten a kick out of my uncle who basically has the same view as Cornel.
Please do. And I someone in the chat asked for the link to the Cornell podcast and I just I sent it to you in the context of this thing we're in. Great. You guys are great. I love Katie. Yes. She's the best. Continue to always love Katie. I think she's the most entertaining, funniest, charming, smartest person on the left. She was one of my first people I engaged with ever on the left. I'll be forever grateful to her. I think she's an absolute doll.
Wow. Thanks, Brie. Thank you. You read it exactly how I texted it to you. Perfect. Not a false note. Yeah.
All right, girls. Stay safe.
Bye.